Hi everyone. In this video I'm taking you to the Toronto Island and doing a sketch on the beach. And I was hoping for a really dynamic low shot here, which I think is interesting, but it means you can't really see what's going on the page all that well. So I'm going to skip through this relatively quickly. Starting with the same workflow, I start with pencil, go over with pen, and then here I managed to do a light wash of watercolor on location. So the bulk of this video is going to be working through that light wash and adding some contrast and some character to get to a sketch that I was happier with. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that process. And here's a glimpse of the light wash that I got to on site, relatively happy with. And here, now at home, I'm going to work through adding some more contrast, trying to pop out the shadows and add some more detail suggesting activity happening on the beach. So I'm starting with adding the shadows that I want to the drawing. I'm a little bit chaotic in my method. I sort of started by poking around, adding some more people, and then jumping to the shadow of the tree. You can see I end up doing a number of washes in this video on the tree, trying to get the foliage and shadows to look right. But I'm just adding that shadow to the ground, darkening up the trunk of the tree, and adding some shadow to the stones in the water. And so this is me then trying to add some sense of volume to the tree trunk, adding some shadow so that it reads as a cylindrical object instead of a flat image. And I do try to use sort of the same colors across the drawing, so when I've got that dark gray brown mixed up, I'm adding it to the tree, but I'm also adding it to that wave break and using it to pop out some details of the beachgoers. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this composition, although I would have liked to have drawn in the foreground a person or something with more detail than just the tree and that picnic table. I think I went a little happy with the little marks suggesting people, and it would have been nice to get a bit more realism in the foreground. But on location, there was a couple actually quite close, and I was kind of chicken to try and draw them while I was on location. It's one thing suggesting people in drawing a tree, because the tree is relatively stable, but trying to remember somebody's face and sketch it, I still find very challenging. And I'm experimenting here. I've got my two brushes going, so the one has the dark gray, green, and the other one is just wet with water, and so I'm trying to feather the tone out so it's not just a hard line. And this will be the first of a few washes I do as the tree, trying to capture the shadow, or darkness of the tree rather. And I'm very much, this whole channel and every drawing I do is kind of an experiment. I want to share it, but I also do things differently and kind of inefficiently. So I tried dabbing out to give some of the tree highlights. You're going to see I end up just completely covering that later in this video, I think twice. And I usually end up doing this after my second wash. I'll add some line work just to bring things out, make them poppier. Sometimes it helps me rediscover the drawing. Somebody asked why I use pen at all, which I think is a quite valid question that I never really even encountered before, or I'd learned by drawing with pencil and then making pen sketches, and adding tone and watercolor is something I'm, half a year into. And I like the aesthetic of pen with washes, and there's a crispness to it that I like. So I'm not sure that I would ever just do watercolor, but we'll see. I've already started wanting to draw things based on their color alone. In this part, I was nervous about. I sort of developed the drawing so far without a sky, wanted to add something, and didn't want it to be just a constant wash. The sky was quite cloudy and you'd get nice ribbon effects, so I wanted to try to capture that. Adding the horizontal bands of color and then trying to wash it out after adding. But I was quite nervous about how this would turn out. I work in CAD software or any kind of computer program at work all day, and often I'll make a mistake in a drawing and try to hit Control-Z to undo, and it does not work, obviously, with real pencil and pen and ink. So I was much happier with this more saturated green. I think it added a lot of vibrancy to the painting. And while still wet, I'm trying to add some browns and almost reds to it, so that it's not just a homogeneous wash. And it's hard to make out in the video, but I'm just going over that pier, adding details, really trying to have it register as the strong silhouette element, and try to suggest the life of all the people walking out to explore the view. It was quite a busy day, and it was a nice day too. And you can see now I'm getting close to the end of the drawing. I'm kind of searching around for where I might be adding things. Decide to add yet another layer of shadow to some of the foliage. And I have the, again, brush with the pigment, the ink, and then the other brush with just water in my other hand ready to use to help blend the shadows out. You can see there I do work with tissue in one hand, sometimes to dry the brush, sometimes to mop up paint if I've made a mistake. And now I'm just going and sprinkling a bit more paint on the page. Again, to help create that atmosphere of lots of action. And now I get to my favorite part, which is adding the highlights with my whiteout pencil. So it was a sunny and cloudy day, and when the sun came through, there were a ton of highlights on that rocky wave break, as well as some glints on the tents and railings of the pier. So I wanted to bring those details out. It really helps up the contrast and punchiness of the drawing, I find, even though it's quite subtle in this one. And this is where I got to with this sketch. I was relatively happy with it. I think there's a lot of character. It was fun sketching on the beach with the wind and the sand blowing. It was great to get a watercolor wash down on location as well, and just popped a few things out at home. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.